Okay, now we're going to read some Mary Draper Ingles. This is a little quick little story, but it's a true story. And it's Mary Ingalls because of English Ingalls. She might have not even been her last name, and just might have been the English Mary, or maybe that's where the last name came from. So this is a true story. Here, I'll just keep this up, right? This is the true story of a kidnapping and escape of Mary Draper Ingles from the Shawnee Indians. Showed this brave woman would do for the love of her family. The story has been handed down from generation to generation, the Ingalls family. The author and illustrator are direct descendants of Mary Ingalls through her oldest son, Thomas. Patricia Hines is a first-time author, elementary school counselor, learned early nothing's more important than family. She lives with her husband and two sons in southeast Indiana. Illustrator, niece of Hines, Sarah Saunders, recent graduate, East Tennessee State University. Degree in graphic design. She currently resides in Bristol, Tennessee. And for more information on Sarah's work, go to her website, sarahsaunders.com. It's SARAHSAUNDERS.com. Okay, so yeah, there's about, I don't know, 30 pages. So let's get this going. Copyright 2006. Okay, so there's this would be the first white woman into Kentucky. Okay, so there's two white women that was taken. There was Mary Draper Ingles, and then there was another woman that's going to be taken on later on. She was taken in like the 60s or 50s, and then there's another woman. So there's like two famous women. Jenny Wiley. There's a Jenny Wiley State Resort Park, and then there's a bunch of things for Mary Ingles. So you got Mary Ingles, and then you got Jenny Wiley. But Mary Ingles was the first white woman into Kentucky. And then they want to say that there were no Indians in Kentucky, but with Mary Draper Ingles, you actually had like a specific list. You had two Wyandotte, two. Oh, this is actually signed too. This is actually signed by Patricia. So I got an autographed copy. Wait, Patricia. Oh, it was written by Patricia. Sarah's the. Okay. So, carrying on. Mary Draper Ingles, the first white woman. They said there's no Shawnee, but you had the Delaware, you had the Wyandotte, you had the Shawnee, and you had the Cherokee. So you had a tribe of Cherokee, Shawnee, Wyandotte, and Delaware. Why, there's no Native Americans in Kentucky, then how are the white women being, kidnapped in here? Some people might say, some of you racists, well, if you didn't want us in there, why are you taking the white women, right? No, give me a fucking break. You know that ain't how things went. Okay, so there's nothing more important than your family, Mary. This is her mother talking to her, right? There's nothing more important than your family. Oh. Mary Draper Ingles grew up hearing these words over and over from her mother, Eleanor Draper, but it wasn't until she was grown up herself that she learned what they really meant. Mary lived a long time ago, back when America was just a baby too. She lived in Draper's Meadows, Virginia. Loved to run and play with her brother John. John wasn't easy on her. He made her win the games on her own. He hated losing to a girl, but he was proud of how fast she could run. She could outrun almost any boy in Draper's Meadow. One of those boys was named William Ingalls. Will lived with his father and two brothers. When Will was 21 and Mary 18, they got married. Theirs was the first wedding west of the Allegheny Mountains. Again, her mother said to her, there's nothing more important than your family, Mary. Mary was starting to understand this, right? All it takes is just tell them twice. Okay, you got two pictures here, her getting married, and then her playing out in the woods, right? This is like my reading rainbow. But it's a fast reading rainbow because I only got 10 more minutes, and I'm going to read the whole book to you. So, soon Thomas was born, and 2 years later, George. So she has two babies, right? So Mary loves her husband, she loves her baby, family. When each one was born, the grandmother whispered in their ear, there is nothing more important than your family. One bright, sunny day in July 1755, Will and Mary's brother John were out working in the fields. The women, Mary, her mother Eleanor, and her sister-in-law Betty, and all the children were up at the cabin. Mary had a feeling all day that something wasn't right. Mary told her mother about her feeling, but her mother said, you have your wonderful family all around you. What could be wrong, Mary? They would soon find out. Out of nowhere came a war party of Shawnee Indians. Now, this only talks about the Shawnee Indians, okay? Again, Kentucky's all Shawnee, everywhere. There's actually 38 Native Americans, tribes, that claims Kentucky as their homeland. 38, okay? That was 8. I have to do 8 again. How many times I got to show you 8 for you to understand 8? Okay, so the Shawnee, right? Here's the Shawnee Indians. They're invading. Oh my God, they're coming into her town, right? They're coming into the poor English colonists, which never did nobody no wrong. Oh, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm sure it was terrifying. Okay, so, there's something about working out in the fields, right? So here's her with her baby and him working out in the fields. All right. So now you got George, or Will, and the boys, George and Thomas. Will and John, the dad, heard the shoutings and the cries from the field. They came running, and they saw the Shawnee take Mary, Betty, and the boys. So they saw Shawnee taken, but they were so far away they couldn't, Mary whispered to her boys, "Be strong and brave. Remember, there's nothing more important than your family." So even though she's being kidnapped, she's still giving life lessons, right? Still passing down life lessons to the world. Look at the life lessons I am passing out to the world. I'm being kidnapped by Shawnee warriors, and in the midst of being kidnapped, I am handing down life lessons. The chief was impressed with Mary. He let her ride with the boys on one of the horses. He showed her how to make some herbs and plants found in the woods to make Betty's arm heal. So he's a great medicine man. Actually, that's probably the only reason he even went in there to help her with her injuries. They came to a Shawnee village, and this is an important thing for Mary Ingalls. They go to a Shawnee village, and Tom Ingalls is actually just as important because he grows up Indian. He grows up in this village, and they raise him Shawnee, and then they reintroduce him back into English society, and then Native Americans invade his house after he becomes English. He should have just went with Simon Girty and just stayed with the Native Americans. It was more fun. He was more wild, rambunctious. He couldn't sit down. He just didn't want to be civilized, right? But that's what the English do. They got to smash you with their Bible, get in their churches, get in their schools, shut up, sit down, do as you're told, arbitrary, absolute authority. I'm the boss. I don't say anything important. I don't tell you any jokes. I don't inspire you. I'm the judge. I judge you, and I'm not judging you very well right now, okay? And how you know? How you know I'm the boss? Because I'm the one telling you what to do. That's how you know, the person giving the orders, right? That's such a good, somebody was like talking about daughters. I'm not going to finish this. But they're talking about daughters, and they're sitting there saying, it is so great. Or it's horrible. It's great when they are giving orders. But they're sitting there saying, I'm tired of little girls, when they're telling other people what to do, being called bossy instead of being told that they have leadership skills. That is not, telling other people what to do is not leadership skills. Go pick that up. Go do this thing. Go do that thing. That's how hard it is, okay? I have to utter a word. I have to say a word, okay? And that's how Hitler controlled people, through the spoken word. That's how Jonestown, right? The Kool-Aid suicide gang. Sounds like some sort of 60s band. But anyways. Carrying on. Shawnee, the chief was impressed with Mary. He let her ride with the boys on one of the horses, which is wild. So she's riding around horses with her sons and stuff, but doesn't just take the horse, right? Doesn't just keep. He showed her how to use herbs. They came to a Shawnee village, right? The important part of this Mary Ingalls story and Tom's story is that they were a part of the village. And if anybody says that there were no Shawnee villages, okay, I have archaeologist books on top of archaeologist books to say there are lots of Native Americans all over Kentucky, all over the place. Arrowheads are found everywhere. All the way, north, southeast, every part of Kentucky, Native Americans were here. There's plush valleys, water, stream, bison. Why would the Native Americans? It's the Garden of Eden, right? It's the Garden of Eden. That's why Daniel Boone came to Kentucky, because there's a beautiful Garden of Eden. You got streams and creeks and rivers and trees and berries and bison and white-tailed deer and turkey and so much stuff to pick and eat and resources to build your houses and land. Oh my God. Right? So why would the Shawnee not want to come here? And then you had the Native Americans, right, who was battling the French and the English for about 100 years. Since 1500s, that's when white man first, Hernando de Soto come into Kentucky, 1500s. But it wasn't until about 1617. It was for the last 200-300 years. Anyways, you had it for about 100 to 200 years. The French and the English were fighting against each other in North America for each other. You had the Beaver Wars. You had the first, second, third Intercolonial Wars. You had a lot of things that was, happening at this time. So you had a lot of things, right? The Beaver Wars that lasted for 100 years, the Anglo-French War. Then you had the War of Jenkins' Ear, and then you had King Anne's War, King George's War. You had you had a whole bunch of wars actually before the French and Indian War. So before the American Revolution, right? Some people know the French and Indian War, but there's actually 4 world wars before the French and Indian War. So there's actually 4 world wars, right? Well, not world wars, but they took empires, right? French and English Empire. That's India, that's Africa, that's America, that's the Caribbeans, right? Because they own all this property. So whenever they get into a battle, they bring all their allies and everybody else in with them. So this story is important because we know that there were Shawnee towns in Kentucky. Okay, so just remember Chenoa. If somebody says, "Hey, there's no Indians in Kentucky," bullshit. What about Chenoa? That's all you gotta ask, okay? Just what about Chenoa? Because Chenoa is Skippakitaki and Alwahi, okay? Alwani, my bad. Alwani. And it's Ahwahne, Alwani. So you had the Alwani settlement, you had the Chenoa settlement, and then you had the Skippakitaki. Skippakitaki's hard to remember. Chenoa, beautiful, quick, easy, anglicized enough to where they could be able to memorize it. And then you had, Alwani, which I even, mess up in how to pronounce it. But I know those are the 3 main. And then you also had up in Big Bone Lick. There, Big Bone Lick. You had the Salt Lick. You had all the not Triceratops, but the mastodons. You had all the mastodons and the woolly, not woolly mammoth. The mammoth was a cousin to the woolly mammoth. Kentucky mammoth was not a woolly mammoth. But that's what you had in Boom Boom Lick. So I heard there was a village there. There are villages on the Green Rivers. There's villages in the Appalachia, and there's villages all over the place. But those are the specific ones. Chenoa and Skippakitaki. Skippakitaki is really important because there was actually some white people that wrote down, that they were there in their observations. So we have the tiniest bit of evidence about a Skippakitaki. But the fact that that she was there and her son was trained to be Shawnee. So he might know the customs, he might know who they were, where they were at, he might have actually been able to describe a lot of things. So, carrying on, Mary Ingalls, the story of Mary Ingalls. We're going to have to make this a 2-parter. Because I'm so entertaining and I got so much to say. I just want to tell the world. I got so much on my mind, Sometimes when you got so much to tell the world, the words just kind of come out your pores, okay? They just come out without you. It's incredible. So anyways, they go to a Shawnee village, right? Mary Ingalls, her 2 boys. Other people were there who had also been kidnapped. And you found an old Dutch woman, old German, Dutchish woman. She made friends with Mary Ingalls. Here, Mary made herself useful. She showed the Shawnee she could sew shirts. She knew how to make salt by boiling the water away. So she was making salt. She was making shirts. She was horseback riding, just bonding with all the people. She was given 1 blanket for every 6 shirts that she made. So every time she made shirts for them, she was given blankets. Winter could be coming. She would need blankets for her boys, and she'd do anything for her boys because nothing is more important to her than her family. Nothing. Nothing is more. Well, whatever. Okay, so not long after arriving at the Shawnee village, Mary's boys were taken away. George was taken to one Shawnee camp and Thomas to another. Mary's heart just broke, but she didn't let anyone see. Mary and the old Dutch woman were taken on a long trip down the Ohio River to make salt at Big Bone Lick in Kentucky. Mary stared at the huge bones laying on the ground. Surely big animals must have lived in this place. Yeah, so they're saying that she was at Big Bone Lick. That's where she was making salt. So she had been close enough by Big Bone Lick. Is that where this thing was? Next to the Big Bone Lick tribe of Shawnee, because they say specifically in this book they point out the Shawnee, and I'm gonna double verify that because it could be. I keep switching Jenny Wiley and Mary Ingalls stories up since the Indians who were not in Kentucky didn't kidnap them, right? They just made the story up. Jenny Wiley, I heard like they even took her baby and they smashed his head against. Supposedly the kids are still alive here, but I think 2 kids, right? She had Thomas and George. Okay, so the rest of the summer, well, you're not getting to see the pictures, So here's Some pictures. Big bone lick. Right, because they had the big bones. And then coming up is this page. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to Mary Draper Ingles? Tune in next week to find out.